Welcome back. In the last few videos, what I've been trying to do is to lay down some building blocks upon which we can define our agentic workflows. Now, if you're completely new to n8n workflows, what I would request you to do is to pause this video, go into the video description below, just go through the links that I will be providing in the description and have a look into how you can set up n8n locally, how you can set up Google authentication, and if you wanted, how you could actually expose your n8n instance to the outside world using tunnels. However, for this particular session, you do not need to expose your n8n instances externally. It would work just as fine. So it does not matter whether you have exposed it externally, whether you are on a cloud version, whether you're using a tunnel, or whether you are just using your local instance within your system boundaries, essentially within your local system. Now, to get started, what was needed was an interesting and engaging topic that we could then convert into a simple n8n workflow. And that's when this popped up into my social feeds. So it seems that students nowadays, they heavily rely on AI agents like Gemini, ChatGPT, Perplexity to predict what would be the probable topics and questions that will appear in their exam question papers. And this is what we'll try to build. The claims on social media are that these question papers, AI generated question papers, are around 70 to 80% accurate. But remember, these are just predictions, it's not a certainty. However, let us see how we can build a n8n workflow and how we can use it. So let's dive into it. So this is my local n8n instance and I'm on my home page. So let me create a new workflow. The first thing I would need is a trigger node. And since I plan this to be a generic exam oracle, so I essentially want to tell the AI agent what sort of question paper I needed to generate. So let me introduce a chat trigger node and I just search for chat trigger. There you go. And other things I leave it as default. So I have my chat trigger node. The next thing I will need to do is to introduce an AI agent node. And I just click on plus here and I just search for AI agent. There you go. Now I would need to set up a few parameters on this agent node and we'll see how to do this. So I could either directly do it here. So I could add the chat model, I could add the memory. Remember, this is a chatting agent, right? So it needs to remember my previous questions. So I would need to provide it some sort of memory. Then I could provide it with a tool, a research tool, which would be Perplexity. So I could either do it here. I just click on the plus symbol. But what I would prefer to do is to actually go back to the main canvas and set it up there so that you understand what I'm trying to do and you get a holistic view of the whole flow. So I'll just close it here, right? And now you can see that my AI agent node is connected to the chat node. Let me just minimize the chat window so that you have a better view of what is happening here. There is an error in the AI agent node because we have not set up whatever parameters, necessary parameters it requires, but we will correct this in a minute. For the chat model, let me choose Gemini and let me move my video to the left hand side. So I'll choose Gemini. You can choose anything you wanted, but since Gemini 3 has been released and it is being hyped like anything, I thought we'll try out Gemini 3 as our chat model. So just search for Gemini in your search bar and select Gemini chat model. There you go. Now, since I already have an account with Gemini, right, I've already created this account, it automatically brings up my previous accounts. If you do not have an account, what you need to do is you need to click on this drop down, right? I think automatically it will actually point your create new credentials. So if you wanted, for example, to create one more account, that's when you click on the drop down. Otherwise, this is what will be shown here, credential to connect with. Anyway, you can just click on this, and what should happen is it should bring you to this page, right, where it will show you the host, which is Google APIs, and then it will ask you for an API key. Now, where do you get this API key? For that, go to aistudio.google.com, and again let me move my video to the right hand side so that you can see, and then you click on get API key. Now, a good thing about Google is that it allows you to use your account, right, to create a free tier, and you can generate an API key using your free tier, and the quotas are quite generous, so you actually don't need a paid account. However, coming back to what we are trying to do is, this is where you create your API key. Once you create your API key, give it a name and keep it safe. It's not supposed to be shared, right? And that is what you would provide in your n8n node. That is here. Okay. So once you have provided your credentials, you can then go on to select the model, right? And if you just scroll down here, you should find Gemini Pro. There you go. You have Gemini 3 Pro preview, which is the latest model. Just select that. And let's go back to the main canvas. And you can now see we have our chat model configured. For the memory, we'll just use a simple memory. My video is beginning to bug me. Okay. Now for memory, just choose a simple memory. That should be fine enough. You're not going to do much with it. And for the context window, I think 5 is more than enough. So for those of you who are wondering what a context window length is, it actually stands for the number of conversations you can have to and fro with your agent. So 5 means it will remember the last 5 conversations that you have with your AI agent. The session key is something that should be unique. We will be providing this later based on our previous input node. Just make sure that this is a unique value. Okay, for the time being, let's leave it at this. It will show an error when we try to run this flow, and that is when we'll fix it. So let's go back, and now all that remains is the tool. So we'll be using Perplexity's deep sonar research tool for to enable our chat agent to do some research on the required question papers and topics. So you just click on this and you just search for Perplexity. There you go. So you have Perplexity tool. And again, since I've already used this, it automatically picks up my Perplexity account. But if you wanted to create a new one, and if you do not have an account created in n8n, it would ask you to create new credentials. If you click on this, right, again, it would ask you for an API key. And you can find this in www.perplexity.ai. So go into that site, create an account if you do not have one. Go to your account icon there on the left hand side, click on it, and then go to your API link there. And right there, you have something called API keys towards the bottom. Click on it, generate API key. Boom. Copy it, come back to n8n, and then paste it here, and you're done. I'll be using my existing account. The tool description, let's let it set it automatically. The operation, it's messenger model. The model chosen, okay, I'll choose Sonar Deep Research. Now, before I actually move on, I just want to mention that Perplexity's API keys are not free, so you would need to add a minimal amount in there to your credit actually. So it would ask you for your credit card details. I would suggest that you just add $5 worth of credit. That should be more than sufficient for what we are trying to do. And just keep topping it up as you run your AI agent again and again for more question papers. So it is more of a pay as you go model, which would suit us well. For the text, we just click on this symbol here, right? This spangly symbol which says let the model define this parameter, and it will be automatically be defined there. Other things I'll just leave it in default. The role will be the user. I'm not going to add any messages, not going to simplify the output, right? And let me go back to the main canvas. You would have noticed now that our AI agent's error has disappeared. So if you remember, when we started this flow, it had a sort of warning symbol, a triangular block with exclamation right here. Now it has disappeared because we have set up the requisite parameters. Let us check the simple memory once more, right? Yeah, context window is 5. And as I mentioned, the session key is something we will be setting up later if this particular session key does not work. I'm hoping this might work, right? Because since you're using a chat node, a pre-built n8n chat node, it should automatically have a session ID, adjacent session ID, and this would get populated here. But in case you're using some other node, right, if you're not using a chat node, this would not work. You would need to define it, or you would need to copy paste something from the JSON schema that's unique. Okay, it has to be unique because remember, if you provide different keys, the system would have no way of knowing which conversation you're referring to, right? So this key has to be unique. Let us go back to our main flow and let me see what else do we require, right? So now let us try adding a system message to our AI agent, because till now what we have done is we have added a Gemini chat model, we have added some memory, we have added a tool, Perplexity Deep Sonar Research, but we have not told our AI agent what we need it to do. So this is where we convert our AI agent into an exam oracle. Now, this is the system prompt that I would be providing to my AI agent, where I'm specifying the role, I'm specifying the tools, which is essentially Perplexity Sonar Deep Research. I am specifying a search strategy. I'm specifying the operational workflow, which is phase one, the retrieval, right? Confirm the specific subject and exam nature, and I'm asking it to get the question papers for the last 5 consecutive years, do research on that to predict what would be the next year's question paper. And I'm also mentioning a constraint that if the exact papers for a specific year are unavailable, search for detailed analysis or answer key discussions from that year to reconstruct the likely questions. Phase two is the pattern recognition, which is essentially the analysis. There would be a topic weighting, the question nature, cyclicity, difficulty thread. Phase three would be the prediction and generation, right? And then I'm mentioning the output format. This is very important because remember, if you're doing something, if you're generating a question paper related to science, you do not want the questions to be all jumbled up or unreadable. So I'm mentioning that if it is a fraction, this is how it should be. The brackets should be like this, the division symbol should be like this. So this is an incorrect format, or for the same thing that I've shown above, I do not want it in this format. Exponents, it should be in this format. It should not be like this, which renders it unreadable, right? And then I'm saying the section one should have the analytic report, which actually details what are the data sources that were referred, what were the high yield topics, what was the trend alert, and the section two is the actual predicted paper. Okay, and I'm saying that always generate the same number of questions as of previous years. So do not just give me some sample 5 questions, but if the previous year had, say, for example, 50 questions, you should generate 50 questions. And scope is stick strictly to the syllabus implied by the past papers. If you want this prompt, okay, just pause this video here and just have a read through. So I'll slowly scroll through from the top to the bottom so that you have a good look. There you go, all done. I'm back on my project canvas and I'll double click the AI agent node to add the system message. Now if I scroll down, you see a drop down saying add option. Click on it and then select system message. And this is where you copy paste your system prompt that we saw earlier, right? So I copy pasted the whole thing. And let me just check the other things. Yes, source for the prompt is user message, connect with the chat trigger node. So it automatically gives what should be the prompt for the user message since I am connected to the chat trigger node. If it is some other trigger node, I would probably need to define it, but we will look into such flows in a later session. Okay. I think this should work for this particular flow. Now let me go back to my canvas. So I have now defined the system flow. I have defined the chat model, simple memory. I've defined the research tool. Now the next thing that I will need to do is actually define where I want the question paper to be generated. So I want it to be generated in my Google Drive. So I have already created a Google Drive called sample QP. This is where I would need the agent to generate the question paper. Let us see how we can create the flow for that. So just click on the plus symbol here and just search for Google Docs and just select create a document. Now you will need your Google OAuth account for this. And if you do not know how to set it up, just refer my previous sessions, which I've linked in the description below. I've gone to great pains to explain how we can do that there, right? And next thing you actually need to say is what is the resource. So this is a document. Operation would be create and the drive name or ID, right? So you have to select your drive name and ID. Now, if I have configured my credentials correctly, right? The folder name should actually pop up in this drop down below, and it does. So these are all the folders that I've given access to n8n within my Google instance. So essentially, I have set up my credentials in such a way that n8n can access these Google Drives. So I'll just select sample question paper and I'll just give this a and for the title I want it to be dynamic. So I could give it the same name, so I could give it a static name, but the issue with that is the next time I generate the question paper it will try to create it with a name that already exists, and that would create a clash. So I want the name to be dynamic. Okay, this is the expression that I'm using to create the dynamic name. So essentially I want my document to start with Rona QP underscore, and then I'm just saying append the date and time to it so that the next time a question paper is generated, it will not have the same name, right? Because the time changes. Even if you generate it on the same day, at least the hour, the minute might change. So it would be a completely new name that you need to be generated. And here it gives a sample, right? So if this is what I wanted, if I ran it now, this is the name that would be generated for that question paper. Drona QP underscore the date and then the time. Let us go back to our canvas. So we are nearly there, but not yet. There are a few more steps we need to take. So what we have done now is we have created a document. Now we need to update that document with the AI agent results. Now, it's important you understand that a flow is a step by step function whereby you need to define each step and you need to think, right? So, you need to think what would be the next step. So, you have a document, yes, you have created the document, then you need to update the document. So, it is a step: create document, update the document. And that is the next step that we'll look into. So, just click on this and just again search for Google Docs, and then we just click on update a document. Now there are some values that we would need to update, but we do not know these values as of yet because this can only be begotten once you have run the previous nodes, right? So your document ID, you would only get it once the document has been created. Similarly, what should be the text within the document that you need to insert? And other parameters, the object would be the text, that's what you need to insert. The action is insert. Insert segment would be at the body, and the insert location is at the end of a specific position. Just select the defaults there. So this particular node we can update only once we execute the previous nodes. So let's try and do that now. So let me go back to my canvas here. Yeah, this is taking me to my documentation because I clicked on that workflow. So I click on the docs here. I just need to close this, right? And I'll just save my note here. Okay, so I do not want my work to be lost there. And now let us try executing it. Again, let me move my video to the right hand side and just let me start the chat. You will also notice that I cannot publish it. In the earlier versions, I am on version 2.1.0, which is the latest version. But on the earlier versions, this would be activate flow, I believe. But it does not allow me to do that because there's an error in this node. But this is something we will resolve in a minute. So let's just try to execute this node. So just let me say, so I'll just say generate CBSE 10 standard mathematics standard question paper, right? So CBSE, the CBSE board has two sorts of mathematics question paper. It has a basic mathematics question paper and it has a standard mathematics question paper. So this standard actually represents the 10th standard or class, whereas this refers to the actual mathematics question paper that it needs to generate. So let me hit enter, and you can see the flows have started triggered off. Let us give it a minute. You can see the logs if you wanted. My video here, and it has generated, I mean the workflow was executed correctly, but it failed at the last node, which we knew would happen. So you can see it has generated quite a few things there, right? If you look at the chat logs, all this seems to be working correctly. The only thing that remains is actually setting up the updated document node, and also simple memory also works. Let us fix the updated document node. So I'll just double click it, remove my video here, and we need a document ID. So just drag and drop the ID here, right? So json.id, so we got the ID. We also need the output for the document to be updated. So we need the agent's output. So this thing here, the text, and we get that from the AI agent, right? This output, this is what we need here. So just drag and drop that JSON node here, and there you go, all done, right? And just let's execute this step. I don't want to execute again. For some reason it takes me back to the main canvas. It's supposed to execute, maybe a bug with the new version there. Anyway, I'll save it, right? Just let me have a look into my Google Drive just in case it has generated. No, it's not yet there. So I will just run this flow again. I'll trigger it again. Okay, let me just let's try something else this time. Okay, let's try generating a question paper for the joint entrance exam. Okay, generate question paper for the joint entrance exam for physics. Yeah, let's see how that goes. And now you can see it has successfully executed the whole flow here. So now I should have that document in within my Google Drive. Check that out. Right, and you can see a document has been generated. Fingers crossed. Yes. So it has the analytic report, the data sources, the main papers that it has taken, high topics that have a more than 80% probability of coming. It's from modern physics, current electricity, electrostatics, semiconductors. Excellent. Then section 2, it has given the predicted paper, maximum marks 100, section A to 20 multiple choice, section B 10 numerical value questions, and then it goes on to print the questions. This is excellent. Now, at least some of you would have noticed that our Perplexity node or tool was not at all used. It might be that Gemini actually did not need this tool. So what I've done is I've just restarted the session. The flows are exactly the same. And let us try to generate one more question paper. Okay, let's try to generate the NEAT question paper. So NEAT is the eligibility test for medical examination for medical undergraduate and undergraduates who wish to become doctors, MBBS essentially. So let's try to trigger, generate that question paper and see what happens, whether the Perplexity tool gets triggered or not. So this is my prompt, generate the NEAT question paper, and just let me run this. Yeah, and now you can see the Perplexity tool is being used, right? So probably in the earlier cases, Gemini did not require that tool, so it never referred to it. But now for this particular exam, it is actually calling the Perplexity tool, as you can see. Brilliant. Let us give it a minute. And it took more than a couple of minutes actually. So, but you can see the workflow has been executed successfully. The Perplexity research tool was used, and all in all, it worked quite brilliantly. So let's just check out our Google Drive here, right? So this was the previous question paper that we generated for JEE. I'll just I'll just close this, right, and you can see the second thing has been generated, right? If I just open this, and it says the user wants a predicted NEAT question paper, and it's doing the hunt. It has the analytic report, the data sources, high yield topics. It's just giving what all it will do. So the content generation analysis, high yield topics are physics, modern physics, atoms, nuclide, dual nature, chemistry, organic chemistry. You can immediately notice that the output is a little different when Perplexity was used rather than Gemini doing the generation all by itself, right? So this is a much more structured approach it has used this time. So it has given the probability of the questions, the topics that will come, and the predicted paper where it's giving section A, section B, and the analytic report, high yield topics, biology, physics, chemistry, trend alert. It's giving a trend alert, but the examination trend indicates a subtle shift from complex multi step numerical problems, especially in physics, towards more conceptual and NCRT based application questions. Yeah, that's fine. Let's have a look at the predicted paper, and there you have the predicted paper. Let me just scroll down towards the bottom. Quite a few pages there. Quite a few pages. Ooh. And there are 200 questions, 58 pages. But this is brilliant, isn't it? Brilliant practice. We are at the fag end of our session. Now, the $1 million question is, does all of this really work? How reliable is this? What I would like to say is that we can never predict what would be the future, right? So, a examiner might come up with a whole new set of questions. But what is important is that we understand the concepts of what we are studying. And what this provides is a playground where you can test out your skills. So there's no harm in it. And essentially, I believe this is what students anyway do, right? So historically, we used to refer question dumps, we used to research question papers from previous years. We would practice on those question papers. The only thing that has changed is now AI is in the fray. So it has made life much easier. But the basic set of rules still remains the same. So for practice purposes, this is well and good. And with that, we are at the end of our session. I am recording this on December 17th of 2025, barely a week to Christmas. I will be releasing this on Christmas. So I wish all of you a very Merry Christmas. And I'll see you again in the new year. So till then, adios.